And we are nearly done. A few thank yous, and we will close these exercises. I want to thank everyone who helped convert this ceremony from an in-person gathering to an online one. That took more work and planning and coordination, all done while apart, than you can imagine. I would like to thank as well the extraordinary faculty and staff of the Academy who have risen to this occasion magnificently, who transitioned in a matter of days to online classes which required changing everything, who have cared so well for our boarding students who could not get home, who adopted to new protocols and procedures that we had to come up with on the spot, and who, through it all, have shown flexibility and good humor. And most personally, I thank all the parents and guardians of the class of 2020 for your patience and understanding as we figured out and adapted to schooling in this time, for your good suggestions as we sorted through things, for your support, and most importantly, for trusting George Stevens Academy with your most precious resource, your children. Alex Tully, second honor essayist, will now send us on our way.
At the end of things, when one finds oneself bumping up against the edges of extraordinary new beginnings, one cannot help but look back. And so I find myself remembering my first days at George Stevens Academy. Days lost some 4 years behind me, but nevertheless preserved in the dreamlike language of emotion and memory, like strange and concise snapshots in my mind that run like this: anxiety, worry, fear, a sense of being overwhelmed, and above all, uncertainty. The dreadful, coiling uncertainty of finding a place, part to play, a calling in my strange new world. I came to GSA with the initial sense of being a trespasser, a feeling doubly amplified by my cloistered upbringing on Idaho, perpetually removed from all the trappings of the mainland world. I was certain that I would not, could not, make it here at George Stevens, a place where the smallest average class dwarfed the total number of students I had ever had the privilege of sharing a classroom with in the small, one-room schoolhouse of my youth, that number being about 4 and sometimes less. If you've never been to the island, it looks something like this. One tattered, sporadically paved road runs like a forgotten horse track in a loop around it. 35 or so year-rounders call this Main Street home and frequently go to and from the sea, which rolls in omnipotent waves on all sides. The only way off or on is by a small passenger ferry. It was, in many ways, a romantic's paradise, though undoubtedly a gated one. And so, those first days of the first chapter of my new life passed at George Stevens with great difficulty, and I began to long for the sanctuary of the past, the memory of my previous life on Idaho, of my previous identity, of all the now gilded familiarity of living on an island as an island. But I was fortunate. Within the span of a few more days, the warm, intellectually inquisitive, welcoming spirit of GSA began to fall upon me as the warmth of a fire falls upon an adventurer in from the cold, and I realized, I think in an English class, of all places, that I was, as I am now, bumping up against the blurry edge of some colossal, vital new beginning. Amplified by that deprivation, I was suddenly ready, more than ready, and thrilled. The world, for all my challenges, seemed open and inviting and lavishly mysterious. The memories of the past no longer seemed to be dreadful weights that tethered my future, nor the contrasting screen upon which all the aspects of my new life played and reflected back to me as things uncertain, dreadful, and terrifying. I had lived as if I could continue living, without changing, and for so long and with such conviction that the fear of change had grown more monstrous than the change itself. But then inevitable and wonderful change came, within and without, from GSA and from my own will, and I, swept along like a gale, found myself carried off into yet more new worlds, and this time neither the oppression of the past nor the limited sanctum of memory hobbled me. So, now, because of my years at GSA, I am a wanderer, a traveler intellectual, seeker of friends numerous, a poor author of memories past. I prize now above all other things change, big and small, for only in change truly lies the multitudinous coordinates to the best of all possible worlds. The wonderful catch being that there are, of course, so many. Each new world invites and inspires and confounds, and they will always exist if you look, be they in books or on maps, or scrawled out in letters and equations. They can even be found, perhaps especially often, pent up in people and the institutions they haunt. The trick, for me at least, was to peer into the unlikely places, to pry myself from the confines of tradition and memory. And I now bump up against the unknown, as we all must. But now I do so gladly. I owe much of this enthusiasm to GSA. My quest for comfort, purpose, and the sense of self lies on whatever horizons I am lucky enough to see, and not in any memories of a past place or past self. These things I seek, and from which I came after a fashion. These things I will always wish to have, but I see now that they are paradoxically only possible to find and experience through change. And I'm all for it. As the great modernist writer Lampedusa put it far better than I, if we want things to stay as they are, things will have to change. So, goodbye, GSA. I will miss and remember you, all who taught and teach here in equal measure, especially the great cabal. So, congratulations, class of 2020, to new horizons, to new worlds. Stay happy, healthy, and goodbye for now.